Welcome to the Education Podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. The Education Podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be at Amotai Samoa.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Education Podcast. Welcome to the Education Podcast. We are here to help you win in work and in your personal life. Today, we're exploring building a career around social impact, a powerful way to align your work with a greater purpose. In today's world, more professionals are seeking careers that not only offer financial rewards, but also make a meaningful impact in the world. Whether it's through corporate social responsibility, working with nonprofits, or championing diversity and inclusion in your workplace, aligning your career with a greater purpose can bring profound satisfaction and growth. Joining us in this conversation is Romero Tagi, a seasoned entrepreneur and community leader with extensive experience in business development, social procurement, and community engagement. As the founder of RTS, Sideline New Zealand, Pop-Up Play, and DatBeanieGuy, and the Supplier Diversity Lead at Amotai, Romero's work with Māori and Pasifika businesses exemplifies how purpose and profit can go hand in hand. So join us as we explore how to infuse your career with more purpose and making a lasting positive impact. All right, brother, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. It's nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been following you for a while, and so been privileged enough to be the first one in this new setup, and it's cool and very inspiring to see, and keen to share more of through the Stella Noa.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's our privilege to have you on the show because we love your journey, your story. I've known you for a while, been following you as well. You're an entrepreneur, but also you also have a role in government as well.
Yeah.
All right. So in my mind, I'm like, how does this guy do it? But I want to go right to the beginning. I want to hear your story. What inspired you to be an entrepreneur? Where did it all start?
Yeah. I guess it all stems from the dream that my grandfather and my grandparents came over in the 50s during the big migration of, a lot of our Pacific Island people. And obviously they come to New Zealand for a chance at a better opportunity. And I speak about my grandfather a lot when I am posed with this question. Came over by boat in the 50s, knew no English, as many of our grandparents did. And he found work. And in doing that, saved up for his own house. We have our family home in Otara, and started his own business. And I think from that, both my parents are entrepreneurs, run their own business. It's kind of ingrained in me, bro. And so I think when I think about inspiration, I think about that journey and the journey of the milk and honey, as they say, to New Zealand. And it's a bit of a different milk and honey in this kind of generation. It's a different hustle, and I think upon reflection, like when I do think about like the generations since the migration, a lot of we see the inequities in our society, and a lot of our Māori and Pasifika are at the bottom end, and I think we have to pivot. And I think we are naturally gifted entrepreneurs, and I think that's a way out for us to build that intergenerational wealth for us. And so that's what motivates me a lot, that story.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What was it about your parents or your grandparent that made you, I guess, taught you about entrepreneurship or business? What was it? What did you see? What did you hear? What did they tell you?
I think it's like, it wasn't necessarily what they've said, it's but the actions. Like, we were just around it. Like, I remember from being a young age, my grandfather owned a billiard in Otara, and a lot of our parents might have known about that. And so, like, I was on from a young age, I was surrounded by the business. And then growing up, as my parents developed their own business, I was around it. And I guess, I think it has its, the hustle and bustle has its, there's a lot of sacrifice in it too. Like, my parents were quite busy, and being around it, or sometimes not around it, I didn't get to see them as much. But I think where I am now is a testament to that journey. And I think just being around it, being surrounded by it, and seeing, as a parent now and as a more mature adult, I understand that sacrifice more, and that really helps me persevere, especially in times where it's tough as well. So, more so the actions are not necessarily the what they've said. Yeah.
That's awesome. In terms of your journey, because I understand you have a working career.
Yep.
And you also have these businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
So tell us about how, in parallel, that started, and also where you are on your journey.
Yeah, so I guess it started off like during my high school years. I was known as the footy player. Like I played a bit of rugby. I did quite well in rugby as well. And then after school, the decision was that I got signed to be part of the Auckland Rugby Academy, which was me, like, this is my stepping stone to be a professional rugby player. So I had that mindset post-school, I'm going to play footy. But I think I was grateful to my parents who really said, if you're going to do that, you're going to do uni. So in my journey of playing rugby, after school, I learned about discipline, like being able to, because we would train every morning and every afternoon. In between, I'd go to uni. But you have to eat right, you know. I'm not eating as right as I did, 8 years ago. But I learned a lot about discipline, as you do in sports, and so I crossed a lot of those skills over into how I developed my career. And there was a turning point. It's probably 3 years into my degree. I got a background in sport and business, where I was seeing the dividends of me pursuing my academia more than my rugby. So I was, it was tough going to trainings every day. You don't get, or you get paid a minimal, but that's what you have to go through to make it. And so one time I took one season I took off a rep season, and I was doing 5 papers at the time, and I got straight A's. And in school I never used to get I used to be a C plus student, just got to be a minimum, but it did all right. But I started to see dividends in me going full on with my education. And through that opened doors through career opportunities, and I saw a pathway where I could work. I've always worked in jobs that aligned with my career pathway. So I worked in sport, and I worked in business and community. So I've always been intentional about the jobs I've taken. And so in doing that, just before I graduated, I had a full-time job, and I was on salary. So I was working and studying. And once I graduated, they opened up another door, and then I went into government, a government role at MPP, which was great stepping stone because I climbed the ladder there. So I was a relationship advisor there, became a senior advisor, managed to get a certain, one of my highlights actually at MPP, in my role I used to do briefings, and I did a briefing for the minister to accompany Jacinda Ardern for Polyfest. I think it was maybe 2020 before, or maybe it was after COVID, but I think that was a highlight because in this briefing, you're making an official briefing document for Minister Alpito at the time to accompany the Prime Minister. So you need to know all the community members who are going to be on that walk. So a lot of I find that I highly regard that as one of my best achievements there, being able to be a part of that. That journey. But anyways, that was my government role. I was there for a couple of years, and really climbed the ladder there. And then at the same time, I was my passion project was pop-up play, and so we started that as a way to connect with family because at the time, me and my wife were, she was my girlfriend at the time. We were living in Grey Lynn, and we were living. I was finishing off my studies, and we were really family orientated, and because we were living central and we were trying to do our studies and work, pay our bills, we missed that connection. And so we used pop-up. I set up an event on Facebook, meet up at Greyland Park, and I got a bit of kit. We can play some games, touch, whatever. Saw an opportunity there. There's people at parks, but there's not many people there connecting people. And it was during a time where, pre-COVID, where, a lot of people were isolated, and it started from that, and I used to rock up at parks for 8 weeks in a row, providing gear and meeting community, and through that passion, was able to turn that into a business model. So as I was kind of developing my career, after work I'd go and do a pop-up play or on the weekend, and then fast forward to that, after MPP I was at Māori and Pasifika for a stint there, and I got to learn about the commercial world, and so that was my stint there, where I got to learn about how to operate with corporates in a really volatile climate, because that's, that was the first year they started the Super Rugby team, and I got to learn the ins and out of how that happens, and how to secure sponsorships, how to deal with, look after sponsors and whatnot. So that was good stint. And then where I'm at now is at Amotai. And so I work with Māori and Pacific businesses, and I connect them with corporate opportunity. And so along the pathway, I've developed these different businesses. It started as it being fun, or like something that I was good at, and then I've kind of learnt a lot around there and turned it into a business where I can kind of do it coincide with my current role. And so I think I've been real intentional about developing my career as well as developing the business too. But it is tough. It is tough, bro. Yeah, so hopefully that can kind of paint a picture of my journey so far. Has its moments. But actually at the same time, I got married. I had 3 daughters. That's probably the most important thing. I'm a father of 3. And so, I mean, that's what drives me, my family, and being a homeowner and whatnot. I took those off. So I've always been quite an aspirational person. I graduated, got married, had kids. And I think I'm in that kind of lane where I'm like, okay, what's God got next for me, And I can't, I have a gift of entrepreneurship and meeting, like, relationships with people. But it's like you talk about the parables of the talents, the gift that God's given you, you can't do nothing with it, so I'm trying to see what I can do there to, honor God and what I do, and pursue things to make better outcomes for my family. So,
I like that. I love hearing your story, and one of the things that's sticking out is your passion. I mean, you had sports and you went to education, but like you said earlier, around transferring some of that passion and some of those skills over into like your job, your career, but also now business. What's your advice around passion and purpose, and how do you find meaning, whether you're working in a career or whether you have your own business, but finding meaning in what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's rooted in like your values. Like, I know it's cliche, but like your values are your foundation, and what's going to help you decipher what's right and wrong, and help you it's like your moral compass, right? And so I'm passionate about my family, my faith, and serving in our Samoan culture. Tautua is a massive thing, and so the way I serve is through serving the community through pop-up play, and it's something that I'm passionate about. But I think that you have to differentiate your passion and your career, because although I worked at a rugby organisation, I'm passionate about rugby, I think the two didn't mix well. It made me lose passion a little bit for the rugby industry. So once I left there, I think I was able to enjoy rugby a little bit more, because you're working around the boys that you used to play rugby with, and you're doing it was just different. So I think the advice I would say is differentiate your passion with your career or job, because otherwise, if it becomes a job, sometimes you might lose your passion. I think it's about having that balance, and so that's what I've kind of figured out around being an entrepreneur and doing things that I enjoy. And sometimes you have to do things that you don't enjoy, and that's where you have to kind of compartmentalize those sort of things, but ensure that your cup is full. And so I think, the passion side of things, I like to do a lot of community-facing things, meeting people, having chats. I like to do that, but then at the same time, you got to pay the bills, you got to do the admin, you got to do all of this. And so, I guess finding the equilibrium, right? Making sure what you're doing is filling your cup. And one thing I always say to myself, especially like in like whatever I do, as long as I'm learning things, I'm motivated in what I do. So currently in my 9 to 5, I love what I do, and I'm continuing to learn. And usually at the point I'm not learning, then it's time to change. Otherwise, I'm not, doing right by my employer, my boss, if I'm not motivated. And so, that's kind of what I would say to that question.
It's an interesting approach because, you always hear this saying around, finding passion in your mahi or in your work or purpose in your work. Whereas you're not saying that's not the case. What you're saying is your passion isn't always your job.
Yeah.
Your passion, if you got rugby, that's on the side. It's just finding time to do things that you're passionate about. If you're just busy with work, and you're not spending time doing things you're passionate about, then you're not filling that cup like you're talking about.
Yeah. And I guess, like, for example, like I've developed the systems in place where I can get people to run my pop-up play, run my events that we do, and then I can just attend with my family and I check on the stuff. But when it comes about I need to pay these people, like I need to do that. But if you develop those systems in place, you can enjoy it, and I think if you do it right, you can balance that passion and profession at the same time. And so definitely it's the passion that drives me. But it's just having that balance, eh?
I love that. That's so important. What about advice around people who have a job, but they want to start a quote-unquote side hustle or a business? What can you say around that if they're thinking about starting something on the side?
Yeah, I always encourage people to do, whether it be a side hustle or like professional development, because like I said before, if you're not learning anything, if you're stuck, I just actually posted up a reel yesterday around being stuck in the matrix, sometimes you get stuck in the motions, and that's the trap, the enemy wants to put on you, and when you're centered and you're conscious of what you're doing and purposeful, you understand your why. I think that's a really important thing. And so I think as long as you're doing something, I think I encourage people to pursue things beyond just your 9 to 5, because as long as you're learning, that can really help you. And it all starts with just having a go, I think a lot of the people I meet, because a lot of people ask me, what made you get into business? Keen to get into business. And I meet with them. And I give some advice, and then you're still at the same point, and I'm like, man, just give it a crack. And the worst can happen is you fail. But I think there needs to be a healthy conversation around people failing and learning. I'm real open about that, it's the only way to get better. So, that's kind of my advice around that.
Nice. What were some of the challenges that you encountered, and how did you overcome that when you had your full-time job and then starting off a business? And if you were to go back and start again, what would you do differently?
Yeah, man, I've had some, definitely a lot of challenges, like managing being a dad and a husband. There's always a tension I have too. So I'm always making sure that I do things with a good heart and knowing what I'm doing is for my wife. But going back to like the challenges, I made I decided 2 years ago that the social enterprise pop-up play that we're running, it's making all right money, but during winter period, it's not a sustainable model because we're reliant on funding from the local council, other philanthropics, and government funding. So we're like, okay, what's the sustainable model we can make? So we went and took on a lease of a 180 square building, high ceiling, and had the vision of something was on Trade Me, scrolling and saw the space. I'm like, actually, at the time, I've been taking my kids to like, chipmunks and hippos and botany, and like, man, I was looking at it and like, this space is only a few hundred squares, and people are making money out of it. I'm like, man, it's such a good business idea, because I'd love to take my kids there. So I saw a listing on Trade Me. I was like, man, I could transform this space. So as you do, you go down a rabbit hole. I remember one evening I was like, looked at the listing, went to see the site. The next day, that night, I drew some sketches, and I got the sketches actually. I was looking at it yesterday, and within a month, took on a lease, 120k per annum. I did my numbers. So this is the thing. This is the learnings. When you're doing your numbers, make sure your numbers are real numbers. Like, you can be ambitious and focus, like, I can make this, I can do this. But what hindered me in making that decision is we invested in got some capital to like do the fit out. We made a multi-sport like AstroTurf court, got basketball hoops and whatnot. Looked mean. Like, I put the vision to life. But now, as we started to operate, there was one side of the business that was flourishing well. But then the kind of as you do when you start something new, you have to forecast for that period of it, like being quiet or rainy days, right? And so we had a bit of buffer, a bit of learnings, and we're tweaking things as we go. But ultimately we made the decision to say, hey, we need to stop operating there and focus on what we're good at. And then we needed to get out of the lease, and that was hard too. Only after a year of paying the month by month, like we probably made, we're operating in the facility for maybe 4 months. And there was interest, like it could have popped off, but it was just suffocating the business. And so we had to go to give up the lease. We needed to find someone's incoming tenant. Only after a year of paying the lease, we found a tenant, and we were able to get rid of that lease obligation. But man, the consequences of that and surviving, as you do, you got to be resilient, and that taught us a lot in business. And that's what a learning would be like, know your real numbers, and be real conservative when you're going into things like that. But, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, it's a lesson that I've learned, and something that hopefully can inspire someone else who's thinking about doing the same thing. So, but I'm a risk taker, I think most entrepreneurs are. So yeah, that's a challenge, and a learning as well.
Yeah. Well, definitely nothing comes for free, especially greatness. And that's a good lesson learned, but a very expensive one.
Yeah.
All right. So I like that you talked about, doing things with the right heart, and remembering your why. What is your why, and how do you stay true to that when in business or when times get tough? And even if you're doing good in business, how do you stay true to that why?
Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm grounded in my faith, and knowing my identity in Christ, and that's what kind of centers me, and knowing my identity in Christ, and what the gifts I've been given, and my role as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as an uncle, cousin. I know where I am in this point, and so I think one of the things I mentioned was. So that's kind of what keeps me centered in my faith, and how I display those values is through service. So tautua, as I mentioned, and so ways I can serve my family is through entrepreneurship. That's the gift that literally God's given me, and like I said, it'll be a waste if I didn't use it. And so the more I learn about myself and my faith journey, it gives me a better understanding of how I navigate the corporate world and the commercial world, because not everyone has these same values. And so I think as long as I can go in, when I say a good heart is knowing that I'm doing the right thing, and that's based off knowing my identity in Christ. And so whatever I do, I try to when I meet people, I try make a difference. Whether that's the beauty of what I do with pop-up play, especially as well, is like we go into communities that don't necessarily have the tools or the resources, or have people come in and say hi. Like the difference we make in some of the communities we go in, we go say hi. We connect with some of the local kids and ask them about their day. And like I remember one time I was doing a pop-up play event, and we were playing a football game, multi-sport, and a father and one of the daughters, she was quite shy. At the end of the game, we got them to play. She got a goal, and she was able to share that moment with her dad, and it was such a beautiful thing to say that we were to be able to facilitate that connection. And I think that goes back to my values around being able to serve others, to be able to connect people, and I guess that's what really grounds me, bro.
Nice. If we can step back a little bit from and put on your lens as working in Amotai and seeing things from a macro perspective, and the impact with the changes in government and policies, and how these are impacting businesses. What are some of the things or trends that you were seeing that business owners need to be really mindful of?
With the current climate, man, it's volatile. People are going under, insolvencies, left, right, centre. I literally had a meeting, met with a number of businesses last week, and we have businesses going from 100 staff to 20 to 0, and a lot of our business owners, especially Māori and Pasifika, mum and dad businesses, family businesses, so a lot of their livelihoods are on the line, and I think as a people, Māori and PIs in general, were resilient, whatever the circumstances, and I think regardless, like these government the government they come in cycles, right? So I think it's just the period that we need to expect and forecast for, and you pivot. So a lot of our businesses are pivoting, and creating different business ideas, and that's you know, a lot of like an example I heard this week, a lot of our construction businesses that I deal with are pivoting into some civils work, or just where the work is at. You know, they have these different skill sets, and they're pivoting to what the market wants. And so I think there's a testament to some of the people that I meet. They hustle and bustle and make it work to put food on the table, right? You know, that's what you got to do. And so you can't control what you can control, right? You can control the people you meet, you know, what you're doing with your time. You can't control what or to a point you can control the government, because you got to vote. So that's stressing. Vote. Vote. But just roll with the punches and stick out this period. And I can understand that as a business owner myself, you know. And so it's always heartwarming when I'm hearing these stories, and it's a struggle, bro. That's what I can say. It's a struggle at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, you know, especially you seeing all of this, hearing all the stories, I guess, you know, what's some advice or a few tips that you feel like that businesses should consider to help them, you know, I guess, be more resilient?
Yeah. I've heard like some resilient stories, which I don't know. Like I said, I deal with a lot of construction business, because that's a lot of our people are in construction. So we naturally get those businesses coming through. Bro, I met a business owner from Wellington, flew up to Auckland and started door knocking, going on site, sending a CV going on like construction sites and giving a CV saying, I met him, and he was going to visit other construction businesses asking for work. A couple of weeks later, followed up, didn't hear from him. And then just a week ago, I heard that he's doing well, you know, and that's through the hustle, and that's a legit example of like someone just getting out there and finding work. And I would say where the gap is, what I'm noticing is that a lot of other people are good at what they do, but they just need to be able to tell their story and I guess tell it in a way that kind of closes a deal, and tell their story better. You know, in a day and age where social media now is a big tool, your personal brand, and people what the quote was, but people want to, you know, recognize the value in working with a person. So being a good people person, having building good rapport is a good thing to do. So the best way I can do that in my current role at Amotai is connecting people. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to connect a number of businesses to opportunities where, you know, they're getting 6-figure contracts, and I don't hear from them, which is good, because they're already getting some work. So don't get me wrong, it's tough. It's tough.
Wow, what an awesome story.
Yeah.
The guy flew up from Wellington to Auckland, knocking doors, finding work.
Yeah.
You know,
don't hear from him anymore, which is good. And I heard that he's doing well, and so it's a testament to a lot of those, you know, businesses out there that are hustling, man.
I love it. I love that you talked about storytelling, and you know, if businesses learnt how to, you know, share their stories, or, you know, their business stories in a way that could actually help them close deals, right? Like talk a little bit about that, because I really like that concept. I believe in it too. Yeah,
I think what it does, like, you know, gone are the days of, you know, give me a price. Like, give me a price and lowest price wins, right? It's the added value that you can bring to a deal. And so that's the line of work that we work in Amotai. Like, a lot of the corporates and the councils that we work with are working with us to improve their social outcomes, whether that be employing local, whether that be through workforce development and the contracts that they're procuring. And so I think a part of business is being able to tell your story and create a relatableness, if is that right? Creating rapport so people can relate, and once they, you build that rapport with someone, a client, it's about converting them, and I guess, it's all sales tactics, but with humanizing it, right? And if we can build that rapport, I think naturally our people, we enjoy the kanohi ki te kanohi, face-to-face interactions, and through that we're able to build that rapport, and then you can talk about the mahi. I think that's often how we do business, right? Let's catch up for coffee. Where in some corporate settings, right, it's all about, here's what I can offer. I think that's a point of difference is the relationships, and I think that's what I hold dear, and like what I like to do is building that relationship. So when there's an opportunity, I can plant you, or if there's an opportunity that I'm dealing with another, like in my business roles that I do, because of that relation, that's how I get business. And so if people can trust you. Building that trust, it's easier to close that deal, and that's what I try to do in my role.
I love that. I love that you shared that. I really believe in storytelling, and I think especially Pasifika Māori, kōrero talanoa is one of our, strengths. We're orators, for example. As education, I use storytelling a lot.
Of course.
And I think it's one of the things that get our deals across the line.
Yeah.
So when I go on there, I don't say we're just a workplace training provider. Yeah. We provide educational services. We can help upskill your staff. Yeah. I always start with my story. I always lead with my story. I'm like, look, I come from a Pasifika family. My parents migrated to New Zealand, met each other carpet factory, 7 children later, I'm one of them, but we always struggled as children growing up, and education was hard for me. But here I am, fast forward to today. Education has done so much for me, and it's helped me start a business, etc., etc. And people love hearing that. Yeah. They love hearing the struggle. Yeah. They love hearing the journey. They love,
That's your point of difference. That's your point of difference in the market, where a lot of people are doing the same thing, and people will gravitate towards things that is relatable, and so hence why I'm here, bro. I've been following your content and enjoying your journey, and you inspired me to do some of the things that you've been doing, and so credit to what you've been doing, bro.
No, thanks, brother. No, hey, that means a lot. And for those who don't know, we've had an opportunity to work with Romero a few times, and this brother here has actually hooked us up with a few leads to help his education.
No promises.
Actually, thank you so much. So, it goes back to you as well, man. Thank you so much. But look, we're drawing close to the end of our podcast, and I just want to thank you so much for being generous with your time and your experience, and sharing your journey and your story as well, and being vulnerable with some of the challenges that you've gone through. If there's any advice that you'd love our listeners to take away from our podcast today, anything at all, what would that be?
Yeah, I guess we spoke about your why. I think that's really important. Like, it may be cliche, but knowing your why, because then whatever you do in your day, you're fulfilling your purpose. And so I think for any aspiring entrepreneur, or people that are working professionals, understanding your why is really important to help navigate this current world we're in. And give it a go. Give it a crack. The worst you could do is fail, and be okay with failing, because failing is all about learnings. But surrounding yourself with the right people, is key to that too. And so, if I could give some encouragement to those that are listening here today, is give it a crack. Know yourself, and if you fall down, get back up, and continue what you're doing.
Nice. Yeah. Great way to end the podcast. Thank you so much, brother, for your time and your words of encouragement. All the best.
Cheers. Thanks, Basi.